a whole, we did close to 1,300 roofs last year.
Wow.
Yeah. So most of our stuff is all word of mouth, all referrals, realtors like yourself.
Yep.
They call us up, and they wouldn't do that if we didn't do a good job.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Aaron Advantage podcast. Today, I'm talking to another industry expert, one of my roofing contractors, Kance Hughes. Kance, thanks for coming in today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. It's one of those things that we never want to talk about in real estate, and that is the biggest item that people have to replace a lot of times on their home, which is their roof. Yep. So before we get into specifics of what you're looking for and how you do things, why don't you give us a little bit of information about kind of what got you into the roofing and contracting industry?
Honestly, for lack of better motivation, just money in general. Isn't that what makes the world go round?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know I had a good job that I liked, I enjoyed. It was in recruiting, and but it wasn't really all that profitable for me. And so this, another roofing company actually tried to, came along, and it was much more lucrative. So I jumped into that, and that's how I got my background in roofing. And then I moved over to F&F Roofing, and it's a dream come true.
Fantastic. Now, in addition to just doing roofing, do you offer any additional services, gutters, exterior work, or what all do you guys do?
We do. So our name is F&F Roofing and Construction. Now, I try and just say that the construction is based on anything that has to do with the roof. Like if a tree falls through a roof, we can rebuild it.
Right.
That's our construction part. Now, are we capable of doing a lot more than that? Absolutely. We do have siding crew. We do have a gutter crew. We can do all that. That's our mainstay. That's our wheelhouse. That's where we like to be.
Perfect.
We like to be siding, gutters, roofs.
Excellent. So the outside of the house.
Yes. I like to stay there. Now I do have a great drywall guy.
Nice.
That he would be a subcontractor to me. But he is great, and I absolutely love him. And we use him on a lot of insurance jobs where the roof is leaked or a tree has hit it, and they'll come in. I'll have my guy go in and do the drywall work on the inside.
Perfect. Now, that makes perfect sense, and I was going to get to that at some point. So since you've already opened the door, insurance work, obviously with roofs, they're a huge major component of the home. And when they get damaged and there is leakage and other things, it's just not the exterior that's going to be impacted a lot of times.
Not at all.
So when you get into that process, a lot of people, obviously it's an emergency situation. You need to get somebody out there super quick and make sure you get stuff going. What's the best process for somebody who's suffered a loss of some sort to get you out there to start the process of looking at, hey, what's the roof look like? What's the interior damage? All that stuff that goes into it.
First things, just give me a call. Most of the time I can get out there within the day.
Right.
Most of the time I try and get there within that exact same day. I've had people call me at 10 o'clock and I'm there at 2.
No, wow.
So, unless my schedule just is like crazy and I can't get there, I try and get there as quickly as possible, especially when they have a penetration. Mm-hmm. That it could cause leaks. I'll have somebody that'll call me and they'll have a tree through a roof or a limb through a roof, basically. I've had trees too.
Yeah.
But a limb through a roof and it's raining. And I've got to get a tarp on that as soon as possible. So, the quicker I can get there, the better most of the time.
And what kind of service area do you guys cover as far as how far you go? I know I've called you out to several jobs in several locations, so I've never tested the limit of your boundaries.
We'll go 2 hours is about as far as I want to go.
Okay.
So we're licensed in residential, commercial in Illinois, Kentucky, and Indiana. So we can do pretty much anything within any of those states. But we like to try and keep it. I like to stay within an hour.
Yeah.
But I will go 2 hours if I absolutely have to. We have a lot of business that we do in Santa Claus.
Okay.
We have business we do in Mount Carmel. I've been all the way over, an hour away in Illinois. We do a lot of work in Kentucky. So, it's just wherever the business is, that's kind of dictates where we go.
No, I completely understand that. So while we're on the topic of looking at insurance and everything, there's a lot of misconceptions people have about what their insurance coverage actually looks like. And I know you're not an insurance agent, so I don't want to get into your understanding of all the different policies and everything. But the most important thing that people don't realize is that the insurance adjuster is not necessarily on their side when they're coming out to the house. And it's probably a good idea to have a third party there to kind of point out some of the things that need to be seen on a roof, because they're not roofing experts, right?
Absolutely. You know, the homeowner 9 times out of 10 is not going to be a roofing expert. I mean, they don't even look at their roof.
Right.
Most of them don't even realize that they have damage until they have a tree sticking out of it, or they're finding shingles on the ground. Then they happen to look at their roof.
Right.
You know, I look at roofs all day, every day. When I drive down the road, that's all I look at. It absolutely drives my wife crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. I mean, so you look at houses all the time,
right?
Like, that's what you do.
Yeah, my kids get tired of hearing, I've shown that house, I've sold that house, I've seen that house.
I do it all the time. I did that roof. I did that roof. You'll see this big roof up here. I did that. I do it all the time. But yeah, so they need to have some representation on the roof,
right?
And that's kind of where our specialty is. You know, I'm not going to do anything, but just point things out to the adjuster. You know, they're not up there to have me mark anything with chalk. All I'm doing is making sure that I'm holding them accountable for what is up there. Mm-hmm. They can't be like, oh, that's not hail damage. And I'm like, yes, it is.
Right.
You know, this is what, you know, dictates hail damage. This is the size hail we had in this area. This is what you guys need to be paying out for.
Yeah, and speaking of hail, you know, that's one of the weather issues that we have in Southwest Indiana. Obviously, wind is another substantial element that can cause damage. And you know, most people think, hey, if I have shingles on the ground, that's evidence that I've got some wind damage. But obviously, it's more than just removing shingles. There can be other things that are happening, like granular deterioration that's being caused.
Absolutely.
How often do you recommend somebody call a roofing expert to come out and just examine the roof? Is it every time there's a major storm? Is it once a year?
I tell people anytime.
Yeah.
If you think that there's something wrong, you better call them out. Because if you have an issue with your roof, you don't want to find out when you're sitting on your couch and the ceiling falls in.
Yeah, I mean,
like, just call me.
Yeah,
like,
I'm assuming that by the time the water gets into the interior, there's substantial damage in other places.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
now I know we've talked about obviously insurance claims and everything else, but you know, there's obviously other times where people need their roofs replaced. It's not just the home inspection process or anything else like that. You know, a lot of people think your roof is good depending on the type of shingle. Automatically, I hear people all the time, oh, it's a dimensional shingle. It's good for 30 years.
Right.
Is that the case?
Not here. Not in Southern Indiana, where we get every kind of weather that there is.
Right.
You know, we'll go down to 0 degrees, below 0, and we'll get up to 100, 105 degrees. You know, so the shingles are really contracting and expanding that entire time.
Right.
And that's really hard on granules and in granule loss. So really what I like to say, and it's not just because I'm in a roofing industry, right? But, you know, if it's a 35-year shingle, you're probably going to get 25 years out of it.
Gotcha.
And it's just what it is. In a perfect environment, that's a 35-year shingle.
Right.
We don't have that.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I like to tell people when they're relocating in, you know, hey, if you don't like the weather, just wait a couple hours. You're going to see something different. So, and you said perfect environment, and this is another thing that probably a lot of people overlook or underthink. Obviously, the number of layers of shingles is going to impact some of the cost and some of the way that it wears and different things like that.
Absolutely. Yep. So the code in Indiana, which is where we do most of our work, code in Indiana is that you can only do a repair on a 1 or 2 layer roof. Anything over that you can't do. We've had houses that have had 7 layers on them.
Oh man,
that is not good. Yeah. Right. So that is so much weight on your roof. And anytime that you put a second layer on a roof, it's going to cut the life of it in half.
And why is that?
Because you're heating it from both sides. So you're baking the shingle, basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So if you have a 35-year shingle and you do a second layer, it's 17 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And you're going to look for it to go bad about 13 or 14.
Now, a lot of people think that the way you can tell that it's starting to go bad is the shingles have to start curling. Is that the only telltale sign that people need to pay attention to?
You know, for somebody that's just looking at their roof, it is a good, it's good indicator.
Gotcha.
Right? That's something that they can look for. Most of the time, it's just, you know, when you start seeing shiny things, that's the fiberglass that's starting to show through on the shingle.
Gotcha.
And that's where the granules have come off, and that's you're getting exposed at that point.
Gotcha. So when you say shiny, I've kind of seen roofs before where it just looks like it's glimmering in the sun. You're telling me that's a bad sign?
Just in little spots. Now, if it's all glimmering, it's probably not that bad. But if you're only seeing it in certain spots and it's not all over the roof, then yeah, you've got issues. Now, if you are seeing it all over the roof, you better call me. I'm coming out to take a look at it.
Absolutely.
So we could definitely have some issues.
Fantastic. Now we're talking shingles and stuff like that. You've mentioned you also do commercial roofing.
Yes.
So there's more materials that people utilize as roofs on properties. Are you guys able to do, let's say, metal or slate tiles or anything? What all different materials are you seeing people utilize?
So we do a lot of shingles, asphalt shingles, and then we do a lot of metal roofing as well. So you'll have two different kinds of metal roofing. You'll have your barn style roof,
right?
And then you'll have your standing seam as well. We also do commercial roofing, which would be TPO, which would be a white membrane. There's a very technical name for that, and I'll just leave that out.
Yeah.
And then they have EPDM, which you can use on residential or you can use it on commercial as well.
Gotcha.
We generally just stick that to residential if we have to use it, and we don't like to, but we do, and leave the TPO for the commercial jobs.
Gotcha. What would you say is the most common roofing material you're seeing in residential use?
Oh, shingles. 100%. Yeah. That's, around here, it's probably the right one to put on.
Yeah.
People always like, it's a lifetime roof if you're putting on a metal roof. It's just not. I mean, I love metal roofs. They look amazing.
Right.
I don't know that I'd put one on my own house just because you're going to hear it every time it rains.
See, the things I don't even think about.
Yeah, you hear the metal. And then also, just like on the St. Joe's Catholic Church out on the west side,
right?
When a metal roof goes, it all goes.
Yeah.
So you're completely exposed. If you're going to lose shingles during a windstorm, you're just going to lose a couple. I mean, even if you lose 10 or 20, you're still going to be covered up.
Yeah. And the likelihood that you're going to get water penetration from losing some of those shingles versus obviously the whole roof going, you're talking substantial interior damage with the metal roof going as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now when we talk shingles, since it's the most common thing that you're utilizing, obviously in real estate, people ask me this all the time because they can start looking at homes and they realize there's 3 tabs and then there's the architectural dimensional shingles.
Yep.
Now, people still make 3-tab shingles.
Very little of them.
Very little. So
very little.
How often are you utilizing?
I don't.
Okay. And why is that?
We hate them, actually. They're harder to put on. You have to start in the middle of the slope and work your way out. So anybody that comes to us with a 3-tab shingle, we automatically give them a free upgrade to an architectural shingle.
Gotcha.
Yep. We don't charge them. We don't want to put them on. So they're just automatically going to get a free upgrade to an architectural shingle.
And I've always heard they just don't last as long as the architectural.
They don't. It's a 25-year shingle.
Gotcha.
So around here, you're looking at 20 years.
Yeah. So what is the basis for why they don't last as long? Like if somebody's got a house that they bought and maybe the roof's only 10 years old, but it's a 3-tab, what are some of the things that cause it to last less time that people might be able to mitigate to extend the length of life of that roof as much as possible?
Basically, the 3-tab shingle just isn't as resilient. So it's a 60-mile-an-hour shingle, whereas an architectural shingle is rated about 130 miles an hour.
And we get some serious wind in this area.
Within the last 6 or 8 months, we've had 70, 80, 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Right.
And we've replaced a lot of roofs because of it. But a 3-tab shingle, just not going to last. It doesn't. So the architectural shingle has that extra layer of protection. It is decorative. Plus, it does provide some functionality. So it does help.
Gotcha. Now, we're obviously talking about the different wind ratings and things. So obviously, people don't think about this, but there's some technology and research that has to go into the development and the creation and the making of these shingles. What is the best way, or how do you stay up to date on what are the current trends of the best stuff to be putting on roofs?
I have an outside sales guy that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and we deal directly with the manufacturers that we like to put on.
Gotcha.
So we deal with them the most. Plus, you have to do your own homework. If something else comes to market, like you got to stay on top of it. We stay in our little niche. We know what we like to do. We know what works the best. And now if we have a homeowner that comes to us and they're like, hey, we definitely want to put this decorative shingle on, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to find out about it if I don't already know. And if I just don't think it's the right answer for them, I'll tell them that. But if it is a great answer, then yeah, we can go with it.
Perfect. So, it's kind of similar to what we do as real estate agents. You know, a lot of people think that my job is to sell directly to people. And I always tell them, you know, my job is to be the facilitator of your transaction. So if you come to me and you ask me to do something that I'm not familiar with or anything else, I'm going to do my research to make sure you're protected. And if it's what you really want to do and I think it's a bad idea, I'm going to tell you why I think it's a bad idea. But ultimately, if you're like, no, I don't care, I'm willing to take the risk, then I'm going to do it for you. So it's the same kind of situation.
It is. Yeah. I mean, we're still going to warranty it.
Right.
You know, we still, you know, for our residential, it's a 5-year warranty, labor warranty. Now the manufacturer always has a longer warranty.
Right.
But, you know, I'll still do it. We'll still warranty it. But if I'm not going to do it and be super happy about it.
Completely understand.
Yeah.
So, roof overs versus tear offs. This is where I often get into negotiations where, you know, it's unfortunate at times when the homeowner doesn't think there's any problem with the roof. The home inspector comes out and they say, hey, there's some stuff up here I'm seeing. We need to get an expert out there. Yep. And my first call is always to a roofing contractor. Yep. It's not going to be to say, hey, I want you to replace the roof. It's going to be, hey, Kance, buddy, I need you to get out here. Here's the address. Need you to run by. Tell me what's really going on. Right. Is there a way to repair it? Is there a way to do this without having to replace the roof? Or does it absolutely need to be replaced? And then the second question is a roof over going to be an option, or do you recommend a full tear off? Because I know the seller is going to want to try to go that route.
Yeah. So the cheapest option is a roof over.
Right.
We don't do them. I mean, I think I did one last year.
Yeah.
One. I hate them because there's two reasons. They literally cut the life of your shingle in half.
Right.
Now, if you're selling your house, obviously you're not worried about that. The second problem is if you've had a leak or issues like that, now you have decking that could be rotted out or it's been jeopardized. And if you can't get it to hold a nail, then you're just going to lose issues. I mean, you're going to lose shingles and you have issues. So, you know, as a seller, I can understand why you're not concerned about that as much.
Right.
I just don't do them. Yeah. I hate them. We did, I think as a company now, we do have 7 roofing crews and 1 big commercial crew. I think as a whole, we did close to 1,300 roofs last year.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and now that is, you know, we're so big that we do have other contractors in the area that do subcontract us to do their roofs as well.
Right.
Now we do a lot of work for ourselves, obviously, but we could never keep 7 crews busy all the time anyway.
Right.
So we have a lot of contractors that do sub us to do it. And I think I did 1 roof over last year.
Wow. I mean, 1,300 roofs, that's an average of about 4 roofs a day almost. And you can't roof every single day out there.
No, not at all. And we rarely do them on Saturdays and Sundays. So most of especially during the warm seasons, all 7 crews are doing a roof.
Yeah. And you mentioned during the warm seasons, and that's another question that I think comes up that people don't know. Obviously, weather has an impact on when you're able to get on the roof.
Right.
What is some of the stuff that happens that can keep you from being able to get a job? You know, we had a relocation deal. You guys put a new roof on for me, and it was during the springtime, and it was rainy and cold, and it was just like, hey, we're going to do what we can to get it done, but there's certain things that are outside our control. Yep. What are the elements that keep you from, obviously safety is important. What keeps you from getting on a roof?
Basically rain.
Yeah.
Rain is the only thing that keeps me from getting a roof done. The shingles that we use, we can install down to 22 degrees.
Dang.
I don't like to do that just because, obviously it's not good for my crew.
Right.
It's really cold. It's really hard on them, but they love to work. So, obviously if we have the opportunity and that's the only opportunity I have to put that roof on, I'm probably going to do it. But, rain is the only thing. I'm not going to open up a roof with the chance of, a large percentage chance of rain.
Right.
Because now I'm liable for fixing everything that we mess up on the inside. And we're the company that's going to fix it.
Right.
So we're not going to just be like, hey, you're out of luck. Sorry about you. We're going to fix everything that we messed up, and that's why we just don't open them.
Nah, that makes sense.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that kind of flows into the next question I have for you. Contractors, unfortunately, don't always have the best reputations. Not roofing contractors specifically, but just contractors in general. And it's one of the hard things that even as a real estate professional I run into is unfortunately, we're judged by the worst players in the game a lot of times.
100%.
How do you ensure, because I've got nothing but positive reviews from all the people that have worked with you, how do you make sure that you're keeping them happy and keeping them informed on what's going on? Because they're spending a lot of money. They want to make sure they're taken care of.
There's a lot of things that I do. Obviously, I talk a lot. And, I'm never afraid to answer a phone call.
Right.
I had somebody call me yesterday at 6:30 on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Answer the phone. You always answer the phone. But that helps. That goes a long way. Usually just doing what I say I'm going to do. When a lot of contractors just don't do that. That's a big part of it. Another thing that we do that not every company can do, we don't take a check until we're there to do the work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies out there that they have to have a check.
They want that money up front so they can buy the supplies.
They want that money up front. They got to buy the supplies. We're big enough. We don't have to worry about that. Right. So we're not there. I mean, I'm not picking up a check until we're there already doing the work. And most of the time they already have the roof pulled or they've already putting shingles on by the time I get there.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to the homeowner about possibly getting that check. But a lot of roofing contractors get a bad rap because there's been some bad ones that they'll collect the check and they just never show up.
Yeah, I've heard it too many times to count. So now, when you're going to a roof, obviously, we've talked about the fact that you can do a replacement or you can do repairs. What's the most important thing to keep in mind? Is it a certain percentage? Is it a type of damage? What are you looking for to say, hey, I can fix this roof versus I have to replace this roof?
Mostly it's the age of the shingle. Like if it is still repairable, we'll repair it.
Yeah.
Right. If you get up to that 10 to 12, anything over that year range, the shingle will become so brittle that you can't really repair it.
Gotcha.
If I can repair it and it's going to look good, I'm perfectly fine with doing that. If you have so much damage that it's just not going to look right, I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah.
But I don't like to do repairs, obviously, because they stand out on roofs.
Right.
They don't look right. It's going to decrease the value of your home when you go to sell it.
Right.
So, and it stands out.
So a bunch of tar on the roof isn't something that looks good.
Let's not do that, So
I've seen that too many times as well.
Man.
So speaking of looking good, obviously there are a huge number of color selections available that are out there for shingles. When you're working with somebody, do you make recommendations on colors? Because selection of color is a thing that can, between buyer and seller, I always say, hey, if the seller's putting it on for them, they get a pick. If the buyer's requesting it as part of the negotiation and everything else is ready to go, let's let the buyer pick.
Absolutely.
How do you handle the color selection process? Because sometimes it's overwhelming for people and they're I don't know what I'm doing.
Most of the time, we'll have a conversation. We'll be like, hey, are you moving within a year? Are you planning to stay here? Are you planning to stay here for the next 10 years? Yeah. Because it all comes into play, right? If they want to put on a blue roof, but they're planning on staying there for their entire lives, that's fine.
Right.
Right? But don't put on a blue roof if you're going to sell it next year because nobody's going to buy that house.
Right.
So
curb appeal matters even when it's the roof people.
Oh, man. It is huge. So, we literally just did a house over on Mill Road and the house sold within 24 hours.
Fantastic.
And the roof was... it was a disaster, but I got that one. The insurance company came out, they took a look at it. They agreed with what I showed them. Yeah. They paid for the roof. The homeowner only had to pay their deductible. They got a brand new roof and they actually asked more for the house.
Fantastic. See, because that is one of the things that obviously a roof is something you got to have on the house, but having a really old roof versus having a brand new roof, there's some value add there that people don't take into consideration.
Yeah. People don't understand how much roofs cost.
Right.
Like I'll come up to a big house and the guy will be like, what do you think this thing costs? Like $8,000 or $10,000. I'm like, you're looking at like $20,000 to $25,000 and you have no idea that how much costs have gone up in the last 15 to 20 years since you put a roof on.
Right. Or just the cost for replacing a single sheet of plywood these days.
Oh, yeah. That's another one. But, I've had people cuss me and they're like, you crazy. There's no way that this would cost this much. And then they call me back 2 weeks and they're like, you know what? That's actually the best price we got. I'm like, I'm not out here.
Not how you're gouging you
Yeah,
guys.
I'm not gouging you. I'm just charging you what I charge.
Right.
So it is what it is.
So that actually leads me into one of the things I want to talk about is the fact that roofs are more expensive today than they've been in the past. A lot of people don't realize all of the stuff that goes into pricing out the roof because it's not just the shingles. It's also obviously the roof dimensions, the pitch, how many valleys there are. Can you get into some of the kind of thoughts that you are looking at when you're going and evaluating the roof to try to evaluate what that cost is going to look like?
Absolutely. I mean, so when I go in to do a quote on a roof, you have to obviously take the pitch into account. If my guys can stand up there and throw shingles on and that's, they don't have to worry about tying off or doing anything like that because it's anything over a 912 or 1012, 1112. I mean, we've done 2212s. Like you're literally just hanging from a rope.
Right.
Like you don't have, it's not good. Right. So obviously that plays into the price. But we strip off all our roofs. We're going to do any wood repair that needs to be done. We give you 4 free pieces of wood, which is much more than most people around here.
Right.
Most companies only do one or two at most. We do 4. And then we're going to go back with underlayment. Well, it's a synthetic underlayment to cover the entire roof. We do ice and water shield on the eaves, on the rakes, and then in the valleys. And then, then you're finally getting back to the shingles. So there's a lot that goes into it. I wish it was just shingles. It'd be a whole lot cheaper.
It'd be a lot easier job there too.
Oh, yeah.
So, speaking of the eaves and the rakes and everything else, kind of give a breakdown of what those areas are, because you tell that to the average homeowner, they're like, dude, Kance, I don't know what you're talking about. Just tell me what we're looking at here.
So an eave is, just put it in layman's terms, right? An eave is basically anything that a gutter can go on.
There you go.
All right. Okay. A rake edge is anything that's got a vertical rise to it, basically, and you can't put a gutter on it.
Gotcha.
That's the easiest way that I can put that.
There you go.
So that's how I roll with it. So.
Yeah, and I completely understand what I'm looking at. As soon as you had that explained the first time, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what they're talking about. Yep. Otherwise, I'm like, all right, buddy, I'm going to need you to break this down for me because eaves, rakes, I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot more to a roof. And anytime that you have different facets, like the more valleys you have, the more dormers you have, like you're going to have more waste. So that's anytime that we have to actually cut a shingle.
Right.
So if it goes into a dormer, we have to cut that shingle off, you're having waste. That's automatically a waste, right? Most of the time you can't reuse that shingle because it's either too wide, too short, something like that. So you can't really reuse it. So it becomes waste. And at that point, you have to figure that in. Yeah.
And obviously, the more penetrations you have, the more boots and things you're going to have to be looking at on those as well, right?
Yep. And we replace all those. So we replace all the pipe boots. There's a lot of companies out there that don't replace box vents or whirlybirds or anything like that. We replace all that. We want it to be as beautiful as possible when we're done because we like those pictures for our website.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you got an F&F roofing sign out in front of the house whenever the shingles are going on. So
absolutely.
That's also a nice advertising in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't done marketing really until this year.
Oh, wow. And 1,300 homes last year. That's a testament to the job you're doing.
Yeah. So most of our stuff is all word of mouth, all referrals, realtors like yourself. Yep. They call us up and they wouldn't do that if we didn't do a good job.
Right. Absolutely. So. I can tell you right now that anytime I make a recommendation to a client, it's only to a contractor that I've had a positive experience with in the past. Now, I will never discourage anybody from using someone that maybe I don't know or I haven't heard of. I'll just say, I don't have the ability to put my name on that.
Right.
And if they say I'm calling F&F, if they haven't already asked me for a recommendation, I'm like, I'm happy to put my name on that recommendation because they've done a phenomenal job for me multiple times.
Yep.
So,
well, we appreciate them all.
So I got to ask you a question, and this is the one that probably is the most fun for me.
Okay.
What is the craziest experience you've had either with the estimate process and getting just completely tore up, or putting a roof on and it just being a hard experience for you?
I mean, we could sit here for hours. Honestly, I mean, roofing. Literally the one we did Thursday and Friday was a barn for a lady.
Okay.
Actually, she was referred to me through one of the guys in my B&I group.
Nice.
For the Salvation Army. She volunteers there, and he just wanted me to help her out. She had a roof on a barn She's owned the property for 50 years and never put a roof on.
Oh, wow.
So it had roll roofing on it. It was installed the wrong way. It was gone from eave to eave instead of rake to rake. And so we literally had to tear I knew we were going to have to redeck it. So we tore off the roof, decided that all the decking was bad, rotted. So we ended up tearing out all of the decking. The rafters were bad. The top plates were bad. So we had to...
So you rebuilt the structure of the roof.
We basically rebuilt the whole roof.
Yeah.
And that took 2 days. So now it wasn't a big roof, but it was a disaster.
Right.
So we had to do it, and we're not going to put lipstick on a pig. Like, we're not going to just get it looking good. We're going to build it back right.
Right.
So that's within the last 2 days.
I was
right?
going to say that. So you probably literally could go for days on that subject.
Oh, the things I've seen. It's great.
I can imagine, after almost 18 years in real estate, I tell people all the time, I'm still surprised quite frequently. I'm just never shocked anymore.
Right? Yeah. I mean, just some of the stuff, it is. It's a lot.
So on the flip side, what is one of the most rewarding things about being in the work that you're in? Because obviously, you're working with people sometimes in very stressful positions in their life where they're selling their house and they don't realize they've got this huge expense that's coming up, or they're in a position where they've had a loss due to some sort of emergency. What do you say is the most rewarding aspect of what you do?
Honestly, every single time we're done with a project, it's rewarding because, even if it's not an insurance job and it's a cash job and a homeowner is, they're coming up to us every single time, they're ecstatic about the way it looks.
Yeah.
Right. The insurance jobs, obviously, people are a little more ecstatic,
right?
Because, they had to pay a deductible. They got a new roof for $1,000 or, sometimes even $2,500. I've had deductibles. I've had $250 deductibles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So those are people that have been with insurance companies for a long time. But you don't get those very often. But, they're always super happy that it's fixed. It's one less thing they have to worry about. Obviously we do a great job, so they're always ecstatic about the way it looks.
Yeah.
And they're always willing to hand over that check.
Yeah, that is a testament to the work that you guys are doing. So those are the big questions that I had for you today, because obviously, roofing, people think, hey, it's just throwing some shingles up. It's not that big a deal, but there's a lot more that goes into it. So is there anything specific that you think is important for people to think about when they're looking at getting any roofing done that we haven't covered already?
Just making sure that you get the right contractor.
Yeah.
Obviously, I always think I'm the right contractor, but it's not. I mean, honestly, there are a lot of bad contractors out there that come in with a pretty face and they don't know how to put a roof on. And then those people end up calling me anyway.
Oh, man.
Because they got a new roof put on. They fought it for 2 years. They still have leaks. And it's because it wasn't done right. Like, get a reputable contractor to put the roof on.
Yeah.
Every single time. Because it's not something you want to deal with.
Exactly. It is a big expense, but it's definitely something. It's what I tell people all the time. Are you wanting to go to the cheapest cardiologist, or are you wanting to go to the guy who's going to get it done right the first time?
Absolutely. I want my cardiologist driving a Porsche or a Ferrari. I pay him right because I want to be alive.
I'm with you. Well, I think that's all I got for you here today. I appreciate you coming in, Kance.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.